All right, guys, welcome to our first ever podcast. This is awesome. My name is Jaxon, and we're just a part of Turning Point at BYU, just a national chapter. We're going to try to pump these freaking podcasts out. It's going to take a second. We're going to figure it out. But yeah, I'm here with Abe. Why don't you go and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Abe Olenslager. Like Jaxon said, we're just excited to start pumping these podcasts out, man.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we talked about, this is not our first take. Let's just say that it is not our first take at all.
Gosh, dang it, yeah, this sucked.
It kind of stunk, but we're just I feel like a stereotypical Gen Z, podcast bandwagoner, you know?
No, yeah.
But yeah, so I'm Abe Olenslager. I've been with Turning Point for a little bit now here at BYU.
Now,
yeah, just a couple months. And kind of what we're just doing with this podcast is just trying to help people understand the truth.
Right.
Have some good conversations, host some good content. I don't know, man.
Yeah, we would just want something enjoyable that's truth-filled.
Yeah, 100%.
That'd be awesome. Dude, I also feel like Joe Rogan. I was thinking
Dude.
about that the last take, number 2, not number 1. I'm feeling like Joe Rogan.
Are we Joe Rogan?
Are we Joe Rogan?
I feel like calling yourself Joe Rogan is like a line that you'd hear in a rap song or something.
Oh yeah.
I feel like Joe Rogan. I don't know how you would implement it.
That's getting clipped right there.
It might be.
That's gonna be blown up.
There you
I'm
go.
feeling like a Joe Rogan Anyway, I'm not gonna start freestyling right now.
Next time.
Anyway, so our kind of goal with these podcasts is we want people to be able to listen, figure out what truth is, what we're doing. We're going to go do interviews. We're going to get content out there. And we're just going to try to provide the most logical position for these arguments, right? We're Turning Point, so we're nonpartisan. We're a nonprofit chapter organization, but we stand for truth. And so we're going to get down to the truth. We're going to find out what people are saying, and we're going to say it. We're going to say what's true. But anyway, so we have a bunch of events and opportunities to come and speak and talk to us. Why don't you tell them about the next event we have?
Yeah, for sure. So, we always have tabling every Thursday, right? But additionally, on February 19th, so next Thursday,
Right.
I think the doors are opening at 6:30 at the Belvedere Event Center here in Provo. And we're just going to be hosting an event where we're going to have a bunch of panelists. They're going to be a bunch of local community leaders, so we're going to have a bunch of representatives, state representatives from here in Utah. We're going to be having the mayor of Provo, which is going to be awesome. And then we're going to have our Congressman, Mike Kennedy. And so they're just all going to be there. We're going to have a bunch of questions that we're going to ask them. And then we're also going to have an open Q&A session, so you guys can come and ask these community leaders questions about how you can get involved, what you can do to help in your community, and kind of just have a good time. There will be a dirty soda bar, so if you're not into panelists and the community, then come for the soda at least. It is Provo,
Right.
Utah, but
Yeah, take your freaking first date there. That's a
exactly.
date. Find out where she stands on the political spectrum. That's what you need.
That's a really
what
good
you
date.
need.
Definitely do that.
That's why I haven't had a first date in a while. That's exactly why.
Shoot.
But yeah, come. It's going to be awesome. But let's go on to kind of the subject of this podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
This episode, last Thursday, there were a couple protests about ICE, and it was kind of crazy. There was 2 protests. There was one at 10, one at 12, and they were vocalizing their disapprovals of not really illegal immigration,
Right.
but it's more ICE. And so Abe, I, and a couple other members of Turning Point had a mic, had a phone, and we just started interviewing these people.
Yeah.
Dude, and you got harassed, I'm gonna say.
Dude.
That lady following you around with the freaking Disney music, oh, she harassed you.
Yeah. We ended up actually talking to the police about her. It was just such a good time, man. It was
That
fun.
That was.
I don't know, it's kind of like what you were talking about, right? There were some crazy people there, man. I think it made me realize the first things we heard when we walked on to the first protest at 10. Same
Right.
thing at noon was F Turning Point. I was like, whoa, we are a block away from BYU. Let's
Right.
chill out a little bit. So they were just screaming at us, calling us names and such, as
Right.
one does, right?
My favorite thing.
which kind of stunk because it was a little bit scary because it's like, wow, these people are not willing to talk to us, especially when like our whole goal was to like go in with like a bunch of kind of, I would say, pretty reasonable questions like,
Yeah.
what's roles? I mean, what like policies would you like to change in ICE, or where can you agree with the opposite end of the aisle, or
What do you think of ICE?
what do you think of
yeah,
ICE? Like, why are you guys here
what are you here
protesting?
for? Yeah.
Like super basic questions, but people were kind of aggressive. That being said, there were a lot of really nice people as well who did not listen to the people screaming, "Don't talk to Turning Point, don't talk to Turning Point," who did like take some time out of their day to talk to us, and we're super grateful for those people, honestly.
No, yeah. And a big thing that we've talked about, Abe and I, is just going out there with an open mind. It's incredible what can happen with true dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pro ICE, and I know Abe is too, but going there with an open mind, be like, okay, I just want to get to the bottom of what is one side thinking about ICE,
Right.
and going with that open mind and having questions answered or having to defend your position, it's eye-opening. Like, I
100%.
appreciate every single person that came, interviewed us. I mean, let us interview them.
Right.
Right, it wasn't the other way. And just let us figure out what truth is. So that's the kind of goal for this podcast. We're taking all the arguments that we heard, well, not all of them, but the majority, and we're going to talk about it. We've done some research. Abe is incredibly smart, so he's going to be teaching us.
Oh, it's Jackson.
And we're just going to go one by one, just kind of talk about it, super formal. And let's just preface, we're not experts.
Right.
I think Abe said this in the last take of the podcast. We're just seekers of truth.
Right.
Like, we're just doing our best to find the truth. So bear with us, but we're going to try to put truth out there. We're not going to try to lie or manipulate. But the first thing, and I think it'd be awesome to touch on, is we heard that ICE is an unruly group of thugs, and that there's not really a bound of the Constitution, and that they're also confused of the border patrol. What is the kind of idea of ICE?
Right.
So just to give a quick preface, like, ICE is an arm of the government,
Right.
and its main purpose is to help with illegal immigration. So there's a different couple sections of ICE, right? So you have the ERO, the HSI, the OPLA, and then the management, right? You have the, I always forget this first one. It's the, hold on, I'll look it up.
It's enforcement.
Enforcement role of, man, I'm butchering this.
I actually have it right here.
I have it right here. Enforcement of removal operations.
There you go.
There we
We
go.
got it, man.
You know
We got
what?
it.
The enforcement of removal operations. So their whole focus is on running these immigration detention centers,
Right.
identifying, arresting, and detaining these illegal immigrants, and then just carrying out the removal of these orders. So when you typically think of the of ICE, you're thinking of ERO. But then there's also the HSI, the Homeland Security investigations. These are the detectives. These are the Brad Pitts of Seven. Like, they're trying to find the truth.
Great movie, by the way.
Oh, amazing movie. They're just trying to find the truth, and they're investigating human trafficking,
Right.
drugs, child exploitation, cybercrimes, stuff like that, dealing with illegal immigration. They work a lot internationally too, working with other agencies. Then there's OPLA, the Office of Principal Legal Advisors. They work on due process. They work on all the legal jargon and the legal necessary steps to help these illegal immigrants go back home.
Right.
And so they represent the U.S. government, they defend, they protect people's constitutional rights, and then just management over that. But that being said, why don't you kind of walk us through the freaking Border Patrol argument, and will you kind of explain that to us?
Yeah, I think something super important to like recognize, and I think both sides of the political aisle have this problem.
Yeah.
It's just like our tendency as humans, but we generalize things, right? Like, I think it's a pretty generalized statement to say that all members of ICE are thugs and criminals. You know,
Right.
That's just not the truth at the end of the day, you know? Just like me saying that all members of Antifa are thugs and criminals and stuff like that, right? Like, at the end of the day, we can't make broad generalizations when it comes to especially organizations, because there's good and bad people in every organization,
Right.
you know? And so that's something that we have to understand first. Second, we have to like really look at kind of what Jackson was talking about, right? ICE is a complex agency.
Right.
It's a part of the federal government, and so it's going to be complex. Most of the agencies within the federal government are, right? It's not cut and dry, just like ICE is out there just like doing evil things. And I think one important thing is like a lot of protesters were saying like ICE should like go back to its original role
Yeah.
and stay on the United States border. And I was kind of just sitting there like, so that's not how this works,
Right.
right?
It's kind of funny.
Because like immigration, the Department of Homeland Security oversees immigration within the United States. And there are 3 offices or departments that oversee immigration in the United States. So you've got ICE, right? Then you've got CBP, which is Customs and Border Protection. And then you also have, this one is a longer one. It's USCIS. So it's United States Customs and Immigration Services, I believe.
Yeah.
And so they each manage like USCIS, holy long acronym, is just administrative. CBP is in charge of protecting the borders, like their job literally says. And then ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, their job is to work within the internal part of the United States. They're not supposed to be on the borders, and their job never has been to be on the borders, right?
Right.
And so that's something super important to recognize first. The job, like what Jaxon was talking about, of specifically ERO, is to go out and say, we are going to find people who are here illegally, right? Which is, we'll go into that later on, which is a lot more complex than just saying someone's here legally or illegally.
Right.
But their job is for those people who fall in that category of illegal, which, like I said, we'll touch on later, and make sure that they are complying with immigration law. To say that they're like an unruly group of thugs is to kind of disregard the laws that bind them, because under United States Code, Title 8, which is what really covers immigration in the United States, there are very few exceptions to, like, there's not many examples that can be presented of ICE not fulfilling its duty under Title 8 of US Code.
Right.
You know? So.
No, yeah. And I think we've talked about this several times. It sucks to see ICE doing its job, or an argument fulfilling the truth, and then there's one exception to the case, or 1 or 2 exceptions to the case,
Right.
and the whole argument gets thrown out.
100%.
And that's something that we're seeing with a lot of, not even like this ICE argument, I would say with the majority of political
Just
arguments,
everything, yeah.
you see an exception and you throw it out. And so what we're kind of talking about is what the media is seeing, what people see of like the Alex Perry shooting and other shootings and other miscommunication that the media has felt that's obviously propagated. We just want to say that the truth needs to be the truth.
100%.
Even if ICE is working 99% of the time and 1% leads to an unjustified killing, like we're not defending the shooting, like we strongly disagree with that shooting, and it was an unjustified killing. But if there's 1 or 2 exceptions, we shouldn't throw away what's working.
Right.
And I think that's unfair to just throw away that. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want
Yeah,
to
100%. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know? Like, at the end of the day, like, if the bathwater, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, you know? Like, just because, I mean, I will not say that the Alex Preddy shooting is a little problem, because it was not. It was very clearly miscommunication on the officer's part, which resulted in someone's death, right? And they should be, under a court of law, held responsible if they're found to be held responsible for his death in an unjustified way. I'm completely in favor of that, right? Because I think the rule of law and the United States judicial system is super, super important, right? That being said, because this one awful thing happened, doesn't mean we can just say, all right, ICE completely is awful or evil. It's like saying, for example, like, I gotta be careful here. I think, like, it would be like saying, for example, Tyler Robinson, who killed Charlie Kirk, right? It would be like saying, oh, he killed Charlie Kirk and he was left-leaning. All left-leaning people, all liberals are evil and bad and wrong, when that's just not true.
Right.
I know plenty of left-leaning individuals who are super great people. They're my friends, they're my family, and I love them, right? And that's not going to change based on their political beliefs. But it applies here with ICE as well, right? At the end of the day, we can't just say, okay, this awful thing happened, all of ICE needs to be disbanded.
Right, and I think that's a great representation of that. Because then we're just misleading and being misled and forgetting truth. Something I also wanted to touch on this is that they're working without the bounds of the Constitution.
Right.
So something that, before I go into these interviews, I'm thinking, I don't really know how ICE works, I don't really know how the Constitution fits into ICE.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm interviewing these people and they're like, man, I wish ICE is this unruly thugs going into people's homes, taking anybody they can that's a Mexican or racially different than white,
Right.
and just sending them off to who knows where, holding them for years.
Right.
And that's that's kind of the idea or the something that was presented to me talking to some of these people. And so doing a little research, like realizing that our Constitution works in a way to protect ICE and also protect the people. For example, I found it's just super interesting doing more depth on the 14th Amendment. That's how it kind of works to protect the excessive force of officers or our law enforcers, to help with arrests and detaining these criminals.
Right.
It's definitely case dependent. But I will say that you got to be sympathetic to some of these officers. Some of these officers have to make a split-second decision, and they're thinking about their families. They're thinking about protection. And so going into this open mind, let's be empathetic to the people in those situations, both getting shot and shooting. What was the officer thinking?
Right.
Did he have potential for harm? Did he have a way out of it? Was there a different alternative? And it's hard because 2020 hindsight,
Right.
but let's just be empathetic to both sides. And I think that's something that I wish I could say to people is the ICE, they're definitely working on through the bounds of the Constitution.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think like a big concern that was presented was concerns with like the Fourth Amendment, right? Unlawful searches and seizures. I think it's super important to understand like how ICE actually works in that regard. So first, they don't receive most of the time warrants from like a judge, like a lot of other organizations. They, like other organizations within the federal government, receive administrative warrants from like higher up administration within ICE as an organization. And under their rules, for example, like them stopping someone on the street and saying, hey, what's the best way to say this? Them stopping someone on the street and saying, I'd like to see like your identification to make sure you're a U.S. citizen, or asking them questions like, are you a U.S. citizen? Are you natural born? That does not go against that doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment, right? Like there have been several case rulings saying that doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment, right? So that's super important to recognize. On top of that, like people are saying they're just like going into people's houses and dragging people out of businesses and stuff like that. That's just also not true. And in the cases that is happening, let's give us some context, right? There's something called hot pursuit when it comes to any law enforcement, police officers, ICE, federal agencies, stuff like that. If someone so let's say that they get in a foot chase with someone and the person runs into a home or into a business, ICE is able to follow them into that residence or that business because they were in the middle of the hot pursuit, right? It would be stupid if there was a bank robbery and the bank robbers are running away and they run in some random person's house and they're hiding in the house and they have people held hostage. It would be stupid if we just had to say, okay, we gotta wait to go get a warrant. No, that is a hot pursuit. And a lot of the cases that people are referencing with ICE just entering residences or workplaces without a warrant, that's what's happening, is illegal immigrants or people running from ICE are entering these businesses or these residents in a hot pursuit, and then ICE is going in after them and saying, we were already chasing you, you guys ran into this place, we, under the law, are able to take you out of here, you know?
Right.
So that's something super important to address as well.
I think something important to mention also is, which I didn't realize, I didn't conceptualize until we started doing research, there is due process for all persons. It's not just citizens of the United States that are here illegally, it's for everybody. And the Constitution protects everybody for getting a due process by jury, figuring it out whether they're legal or illegal. I think that like the Fifth Amendment, this is important to talk about. I wonder, at least for me, and I bet there's others out there, ICE is operating within giving these due process. There's a legal system. There's the OPLA. There's the whole arm of ICE that's there to do these deportations legally and in a way that abides the Constitution.
100%.
So I don't know. Just to say that they are unruly thugs and kind of throwing out the Constitution, I think that's a hot take because of an exception and just what we see.
Right, 100%. And I think, like we said, just to reiterate the point, there are bad people in every organization, right? Like there are going to be some thugs in ICE just like there's going to be some thugs in any organization.
Right, which
But-
sucks,
Like when you look at it, for example, like a lot of people who are a part of ICE are immigrants who came here legally themselves. Like
Right.
that's kind of, or the kids of immigrants at least, which is kind of crazy, because then these people get demonized at the same time, you know. But I think it's super important to realize too that it like, and we probably won't be able to get into all of this, but it's not as cut and dry as like illegal or legal. There's green card holders, there are non-immigrants who are here like for tourism or as diplomats, there's asylum seekers, there's refugees. I think there just needs to be a reform to immigration itself to make it easier to get into the country legally, but also to fix a lot of the problems that we see with these other parts. For example, a big issue is that there's a lot of asylum seekers, and that kind of disrupts a lot of issues as far as immigration goes.
Overall, my experience was awesome for interviewing these people.
Yeah.
My eyes were open. And it's awesome doing this research and doing this podcast, because now I'm like trying to see the truth of ICE. Okay, well, they're not just killing people. The media is obviously propagating something, and people are getting fed,
Right.
both sides, right? And to be extreme on either side is terrible. So like what we're trying to do as Turning Point BYU, and I think we're doing a decent job at least so far,
Right,
is finding the truth
right.
and getting the best logical argument out there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, we all have differing opinions. It's kind of what Jaxon just mentioned at the start, though, right? We just want to be seekers of truth, right? At the end of the day, like, we're not experts on immigration. We're not experts on ICE. We're not experts in politics or whatever. But at the end of the day, we do seek truth. And so we might get some things wrong and call us out for it, 100%. But at the end of the day, like, at least we're researching and trying to find the truth. And that's what we encourage all of you to do as well, is research the ideas before you state your opinion. Make sure you understand your opinion. I think is just a good takeaway from our experience.
And listen to both sides. Like, ask questions, 100%. Get to know like what they're trying to say, and then use logic to defeat it.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, yeah, get involved. We table every week. Come talk to us. If you have a hot topic, please send us a message. If you see us, feel free to contact and talk about us about Turning Point. Come to the event on the 19th. That's going to be awesome. Everybody should come.
100%.
RSVP on our Instagram, and that's it for next week.
Yeah, we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks so much.
See you guys later.